And with that, I would like to introduce to all of you John Pennington, who is with HACCP Products. And John has been involved in the food service industry since 1989. He has an experience and understanding and expertise in both business and culinary arts, which has led him through a number of positions in the food service industry, including his current position as Executive Vice President of Sales and Marketing and Corporate Chef with HACCP Products. And so with that, I'd like to introduce to everybody John Pennington. And John, please feel free to begin your presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. I appreciate it. First off, thanks everybody for attending and also watching this after the fact as well. Today what we're going to go through is we're going to obviously talk about steam cookers and the evolution of steam. We're going to talk a little bit about HACCP principles with regard to steamers and child nutrition. We'll do a brief history and physics and also the benefits of cooking with steam as well. Along with that, we really want to get an understanding of the advantages and disadvantages of really 4 different categories of steamers, and really how can you choose a green steamer for your school and for your facility that can actually save money in the long term. We're going to talk a little bit about reviewing nutrition and how it relates to steam cooking. Also going to give you some tools that talk about cost reduction and ROI. That includes a website you can go to. So we've got a lot of great information here for you, I hope. Also, please bear in mind at the end of this, I'm going to have a website for you that you'll be able to go to, and you'll be able to take a very short test. And go ahead and we'll give you the website address for that, so you'll be able to take a test and then get your CEU credits for this presentation as well. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. A little bit about us to get going here. HACCP started in 1993. We're located in beautiful Fort Wayne, Indiana. If you look down here, you can see my great glamour shot there. You'll see Scott Swager in the middle. Scott Swager is our president and CEO. He is also the School Nutrition Foundation chairman of the board. So we are heavily involved with the SNA. And then, of course, you see our other corporate chef, Kenny Walpole, there as well. Product-wise, we are experts in steam cooking, be it steam cookers from our Steam and Hold and Evolution steamers, also to a steam-heated flat-top griddle, tilt skillets, and kettles as well. But enough about us. Let's move on. When we talk a little bit about HACCP, you and I know that school nutrition programs have a better food safety record than meals prepared anywhere else, including home, commercial restaurants, hospitals, and the FDA confirms this. However, the safety of school meals continues to be scrutinized and criticized by special interest groups and the media as well. The Reauthorization Act of 2004 required schools to use the HACCP principles while implementing a food safety program in all school buildings. The principles to help prevent foodborne illness by limiting the amount of time potentially hazardous foods are held in the temperature danger zone during preparation, cooking, and holding. A lot of steamers today actually feature a hold mode that will actually hold that product in a safe environment. So, the steam cooker not only has the ability nowadays to cook, but also to be able to hold at a hot, safe holding temperature as well. So really, it makes no matter whether you're rethermalizing in a satellite location, whether you're shipping it cold and retherming it there, when you're doing catering, this type of product really helps you out in meeting those HACCP requirements that we all have to deal with on a regular basis. Talk a little bit about steam. Webster's defines steam as water in a gaseous state, especially when hot. The vapor phase of water cools and condenses energy, power to produce or emit steam, or to expose to steam as in cooking. Basically, steam is actually created at an atmospheric level or at sea level at 212 degrees. I'm going to go back a little bit here and talk about some of the history of steam. When we go to ancient civilization, that's actually where it really started. So we're going to rip some of the pages out of the history book here. Steam actually dates back to the days of cavemen and women when foods were actually cooked over hot springs or even stones as well. In the 1st century BC, over the past 3,000 years, ancient China has made use of steaming through bamboo, baskets, and a wok. The reason they've done this for so many centuries is they've always believed that it was a healthier way to cook product, and it actually is. We're going to actually have a slide later that really goes over some of the nutritional benefits of cooking with steam. Healthier, more antioxidant retention, more nutrient retention. But really the main reason they were using steam is because, quite frankly, stoves were very rare in that region. When you go to the 13th century in North Africa, specifically the Moroccans, have been steaming couscous or a semolina grain in a 2-tiered pot that you see on the screen right here called a couscousier. And they were cooking lamb, chicken, vegetables, and spices were cooked at the bottom. And then it had holes in the bottom of this to actually impart that flavor into the meat that they were cooking in the top portion of this. When you skip to the 17th century, you'll see Mr. Dennis Papin over here. And he actually invented what's more commonly known as the very first actual commercial type steamer. And it was called the steam digester, developed in 1679. Now, Mr. Papin was a French physicist and mathematician. He actually named this himself. Oddly enough, squab was one of the first products that they ever cooked in a steamer. And if you know what steam is, or if you know what a squab is, they were basically cooking pigeons in this thing to test it out. And still to this day, in French and European cooking, squab is a very common cooked product, and most of the time, you're actually going to find that steamed as well. If any of you have ever been to Hawaii, you've probably been to a kalua. It's a traditional pig roast and is really part of their ritual. Even today, if you've ever attended a luau on the island, the kalua is big business. Basically, the pig is steamed in a pit in the ground. Stone and woods are used to create and keep the heat in the pit, and then layers of leaves or whatever else can be is used to cover the pit. The pig or meat is cooked with the steam and the smokes, and voila, taste of succulent and tender pork every time. If you've ever been to one of these, it's a fantastic experience, not only seeing the cooking process, but really just the flavor that they attain using this method is just phenomenal. We go to the 20th century, and we're at the start of the 20th century here, around 1939 at the World's Fair. Our country was gearing up for World War II, and the war certainly had an impact on pressure cookers. Pressure cookers were exhibited at the World Fair in 1939 for the first time. When you look to that World War II era, the popularity of the pressure cooker really did progress quickly because a lot of the men were off fighting the war and a lot of the women were in the factories working. So they needed some way to prepare food quickly and well for the kids at home and also for themselves as well. So that's really where you see the popularity of the pressure cooker, which is a form of cooking with steam, starting to become more and more popular. And you can see here them making munitions in a factory. And really the women were the backbone of this war, keeping our factories going, making artillery shells, guns, and multiple other products that were consumed for the war. When you look around the 1940s and the post-war era, progress was starting to take shape in the kitchen throughout the 40s. As modern housewives enjoyed cooking with their new inventions, slowly women began purchasing and using these first pressure cookers. One of my favorite times, the 1950s, the start of rockabilly and rock and roll. The demand for pressure cookers was astronomical as it became really a symbol of household modernization. More working women, convenience, time, money, and progress all helped sales go through the roof, literally. Almost overnight, sales went from 11 manufacturers to 85 manufacturers and completely flooded the market for the next several years. During the 50s, on the commercial side, progress was also taking shape with the first atmospheric boiler-based steamer as well. And what you're going to see here is a boiler-based steamer uses a boiler or a steam chamber to create steam at 212 degrees. These type of steamers are connected to a water and a drain line. They do require water filtration. You have to use caustic chemicals to clean them. And really there's a lot of manual labor and typically a lot of headaches associated with this type of steamer. This slide really shows you the boiler-based steamers. And what this actually is a picture of a boiler. And you can notice all of this white stuff in here is actually calcium and lime deposits that build up in there. That's because your water is coming into here. Normally there's going to be a heating element inside that actually heats up that water to create steam, and then the steam goes back up here to a takeoff that actually goes into the cavity. And really this boiler is the main portion of these steamers that really require a lot of maintenance and have a lot of downtime. If you look at boiler-based units today, a lot of them actually have a little light that comes on that tells you when that boiler is ready to be delimed. So let's review the boiler-based steamer here a little bit. The boiler-based steamers always have a water and a drain line connected to them. Oftentimes, if they have one water line coming into the unit, that line will actually split inside of the unit. One part of that water line will go down to feed the boiler the water it needs to actually create steam, and then the other line is actually called a condensate line. And what that's doing is pumping water down your drain constantly throughout the day. That's part of the reason why these are so inefficient from an energy standpoint. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on down the road here too. All boiler-based steamers require deliming. If you happen to have a boiler-based unit and you are not deliming it, I would strongly recommend that you start doing that immediately. It's only going to cause you some issues down the road. When we talk about water filtration, that is a requirement on this type of a steamer, is you have to have water filtration on these units. It will void your warranty, bar none. All manufacturers, your warranty will be voided if you do not use a water filtration system. Not only do you have to use the water filtration system, but you also need to make sure that a maintenance staff or maybe even your own kitchen staff, if they're responsible for it, is actually changing those filters typically on a quarterly basis, or if you have harder water, it could even be more than that. Normally on a warranty call on a boiler-based steamer, the first thing the service agent is going to do is check the hardness of the water, and if it does not meet the hardness criteria in that warranty, that basically means that your district is going to have to pay for that service call. This type of a unit can use up to 300 gallons of water per day. If you wanted to relate that something more close to home, your typical bathtub holds a maximum of 50 gallons of water. So this would be like filling up your bathtub 6 times a day is the amount of water that this type of unit goes through. Very high energy costs with boiler-based steamers as well. On the average, they're about 40% energy efficient. So that means out of that 100% of the electrical or gas that your district is actually paying for to operate that unit, only about 40% of that energy is actually going into cooking the food. The rest of it is really just wasted, be it going down the drain or energy because of the inefficient way that they cook. Also high maintenance costs associated with these as well. When you look at a boiler, when a boiler goes down, that can cost anywhere from $1,500 up to even $3,000 to replace a boiler. Then, of course, you have the cost of the water filtration system and maintaining those filters as well, which can cost up to $150 a piece. So, moral of the story, when we're talking about boiler-based steamers, they are B-A-D, bad. There is absolutely no reason to have a boiler-based steamer anymore. Any boilerless or connectionless steamer, any boiler-free steamer is going to be a better choice than a boiler-based steamer. The only reason a lot of people still get a boiler-based steamer is, first off, they think that that is the fastest steamer on the market. That is not the case anymore. Speed is not an issue. Even when you're looking at connectionless steamers nowadays, there are connectionless steamers that cook every bit as fast as a boiler-based steamer. They have great recovery times. The other one is, quite frankly, lack of knowledge, which is what we're hoping to show you today, is how there are other options out there that can actually save your school money in the long term on utility costs, on food waste, on filtration costs, maintenance. There are really a lot of different ways that these type of units can save you money. All right, let's talk about 1993 really was the first push forward in the evolution of steam cooking. And with that, in 1993, you're going to see the first vacuum connectionless steamer hit the market. Before that, everything was boiler-based. When you're talking about a vacuum connectionless type of a steamer, this actually requires no boiler system whatsoever. You basically open the door, you pour the water in, you close the door, you turn it on, and preheat it and start cooking. Normally this water, 3 gallons of water, could last you upwards of 8 hours in a cooking cycle. A lot of that depended on how often you were opening and closing the door. But when you compare this type of a unit using 3 to 6 gallons of water per day versus a unit that could use up to 300 gallons of water per day, the savings really are self-evident with this type of a unit. Also, I'd like to mention that the vacuum portion of this steamer actually allowed you, and does allow you today, to be able to actually lower the temperature of steam. So you get a higher yield out of meat products, better coloration out of vegetables, and also more nutrient retention as well. Let's look a little bit at some of the qualities of connectionless technology. With connectionless technology, there are no water and drain lines. You simply add the water. At the end of the day, when you're done cooking, you drain the water out, you let that cool down, and then you manually carry a pan away from that unit and dump it down a mop sink or wherever you would dispose of that water. There are no boilers to delime. Basically, the inside of these units look like a stainless steel box, and there's absolutely nothing in there that really could potentially get lined up. Now, if you don't clean it for a month, not that anyone would ever do that, but if you don't clean that bottom of that cavity out for a month, you will most likely see some lime and calcium deposits. The nice thing about it is, unlike a boiler, everything you would need to clean is right there within reach inside that cavity. It's very easy to put something like a lime away or some other type of chemical in there, and quite frankly, even things like lime jello mix works really well in the bottom of these things to get rid of that calcium and lime deposits and scale deposits. This type of unit is hard water proof. They require no water filtration. They also, as I mentioned, do not have that large water consumption that you find with your boiler-based units and even a lot of boiler-less units as well. As I had mentioned earlier, your boiler-based unit goes through upwards of 300 gallons of water per day. This type of a unit is going to be 3 to 6 gallons per day. Also, when you look at your energy cost on these, because they are not going through very much water, your energy costs are very low. When you look at electric connectionless type of a steamer, most of them are going to be in the 92 to 96% efficiency range from cooking efficiency standpoint. And what that means basically is, of that energy that you're putting in or paying to go into that unit, 92 to 96% of it is actually going into cooking the food, which is exactly what you're looking for. That means it's a very energy efficient type of a unit to use. Because of the less water usage, and also because there is no actual boiler inside of this unit, in other words, there is no heating element actually coming into contact with water, these are virtually a maintenance-free type of a unit. They don't have the high cost associated with your deliming, water filtration systems, and also mainly your boiler systems as well. And you can see there again, up to a max of 6 gallons per day is the water usage. Now, once these units were introduced and started gaining popularity, a lot of manufacturers said, okay, well, wait a minute, we need to come up with a better solution that is more energy efficient than our boiler-based type of a steamer. And what a lot of manufacturers really came up with was called a boilerless steamer. Now, most of these still operated on that same type of a principle, and they still require a water and a drain line. While they technically did not have a boiler, they were able to use pretty much the same thing, only call it boilerless. Some people called it a steam generator, the piece that was making the steam. Basically what this boils down to is it still has that box down at the bottom of the unit, just like I showed you earlier. The only difference is it is not pressurized now. So it's more of an atmospheric type steam, which means they have to add more parts in there to actually control the water and the steam. The bonus to these type of units, though, is typically these will go through anywhere from 14 to 30 gallons of water per hour. So they are more efficient than a boiler-based unit. They're not as energy or water efficient as the connectionless type unit, but this is more of a middle-of-the-road energy usage and also water usage as well. A lot of these today actually have their own onboard water filtration system. So bear in mind these type of units are still connected to a water and a drain line. They also have no boilers to delime. However, they all still have a deliming light on them. Remember, they don't technically call it a boiler because it's not pressurized, but they still have something generating the steam that has a heating element in it or something exposed to that lime and calcium. So most all of these will still have your deliming light on them and do still require deliming. You're just not deliming technically a boiler. Most of them do require water filtration as well. Some of these type of units actually have their own onboard water filtration system, which means you have to buy that proprietary filter every time you would need one and hopefully keep stock on those as well. Again, with this type of a unit, while it's not in that 3 to 6 gallon range like your connectionless is, it is better than your boiler base, but these are still, water quality is still very, very important to this type of a unit. Also, warranty on these type of units do require water filtration as well. So when you're looking at your warranty, make sure you read the fine print on that to see about those water filtration requirements. And when you go to install that water filtration system, you need to really check it after it's installed to make sure that the water coming into that steamer meets the requirements that would enforce your warranty. Again, lower water usage than compared to the boiler-based. You're looking at boilerless is again going to be that middle of the road. About 120 gallons of water per day is what these types of units would go be using. So that would be like almost like filling your bathtub up 3 times a day as opposed to 5 times a day. Also, with the amount of water that they go through, these do have a higher energy cost as well. When you're looking from an efficiency standpoint, these typically are going to be anywhere in the 55 to 70% efficient range. But again, because of the water that they go through, they do have a higher energy cost when compared to a connectionless type steamer. Again, they're kind of middle of the road in every way when you're looking at this type of a unit. And also average maintenance cost as well. Again, you're probably not going to have to change the filter as much because they're not pulling as much water through that filtration system. Because they're using less water, you're not going to have to delime it as much either, unless, of course, you have a really hard water scenario. In 2009, what we find is the introduction of a new type of a steamer. And on your boiler-free steamer, this is really an offshoot of the connectionless steamers. What most manufacturers did was basically figured out a way that they could put an auto water fill system and a drain line onto their connectionless unit. So in essence, what you're doing is you have the convenience features of an auto fill water system where you're not carrying water over to this unit anymore, and also the drain line so you don't have to carry a hot pan of water away or even a warm pan of water away from that unit. So really what would happen with these is the units actually added that convenience feature. A lot of the same benefits as a connectionless type unit, but without any type of a boiler in any way, shape, or form. The other unique thing that was introduced in 2009, it has a lot of names. It could be called steam vector technology or other names as well. But really what this is a way to use the physics of steam to create a natural convection inside of the steam cavity without any pumps, fans, or motors. And what this allows you to do is get more even cooking, but also, as I mentioned earlier, it kind of took that stigma away that these types of the units, either connectionless or boiler-free, cooked slow. In 2009, this really revolutionized the steam cooking industry because now you could actually get a connectionless or a boiler-free steamer that was able to keep up with your boiler-based unit that you had before. You didn't have to adjust in cook times. Everything was really status quo as far as cook times go, so it really kind of took away that stigma. When you're talking about boiler-free, these are available, pushed the wrong button. When you're talking about boiler-free, these are actually available connected to a water and drain line, or you can actually get them connectionless, and also most manufacturers allow you to mix and match that feature. In other words, let's say that you have a water connection readily available, but you don't have a drain line. You can actually order this type of a unit with the auto fill feature, but a manual drain, where you would actually drain the water into the pan. Vice versa, maybe you don't have the water line there, but you do have a drain line. You can actually get it with a manual fill and then a plumbable drain as well. There are no boilers with this type of a unit, hence boiler-free, so there is no delining associated with this type of a unit. Also, no water filtration requirements. Again, these type of units typically are going to go through less than 1 gallon of water per hour. You're kind of back in that 3 to 6 gallon range for the entire day. So being that they have no boiler to deline, also the low water usage, this type of a unit does not require water filtration and uses less than a gallon of water per hour. Also, these type of units now offer variable cooking speeds. Some of them actually have a plate in the back of the unit that allows you to adjust your cooking speeds. So in other words, if you were used to being able to cook rice in 25 minutes, 6 pans of rice in 25 minutes, and you get one of these types of units in and it takes you 30 minutes, there's typically an adjustment that you can make very easily on your end and actually decrease that cook time to be more of what you're used to. Typically that's something that's going to be in an owner's manual, maybe an operations video, or you could always call the manufacturer or your manufacturer's rep and find out how to do that. When you're talking about utility usage, these really do have a low utility usage, be it water, gas, electric, or propane. Again, because they go through less water, you're actually going to use less electrical or gas associated with that as well. The primary reason for that is you're not heating 300 gallons of water every day when you're using that boiler-based type unit. So again, when you're looking at something that's energy efficient, water efficient, you're always going to be better off looking towards a boiler-free type unit or a connectionless type unit. If you're not comfortable for some reason going that direction, I would recommend a boilerless type of a unit. Again, it's middle of the road, and maybe it can bridge that gap till you are ready to make that switch. Talk a little bit about cost comparisons here, and I'm actually going to get into some of these numbers a little bit later and show you how you can actually do your own cost comparisons and see how much your district may be able to save per year by switching to either a boilerless steamer or a connectionless or boiler-free steamer. The numbers that I have here are kind of average numbers. They're very generic. However, this data actually comes from a website called fishnick.com. That's FISHNICK.com. And what this is the Fisher Nickel Testing Facility located in San Ramon, California. And what they are is an independent third-party testing agency sponsored by Southern California Edison and also Pacific Gas and Electric. And what they do is third-party testing on steam cookers. They also do combi ovens, convection ovens, and several other different products as well. But what you get is independent third-party information on water usage, electrical usage, gas usage, and several other factors there as well that can really aid you in making the right decision that can actually save your district money. And by the way, comparisons like these are really a great way to help convince your school board how they can save some money, and you can also get some new equipment into your kitchen as well. So let's look at your boiler-based steamer here. Your average water cost is $651 per year. Average sewage cost is $724 per year. Sewage cost typically is a little bit more than the water coming in. In some areas, it could be as much as double the amount of the water coming in. Also, when you look at electricity, these are going to have that higher electrical cost as well. You can see this one at $39.09, $300 for deliming chemicals, $250 for water filters. So you can see your boiler-based unit is going to actually cost $5,834 a year to run at your district. That's per unit. So if you were to switch from using a boiler-based type of a unit over to a connectionless or boiler-free unit, your district could actually save $4,112 per year just by switching one cavity out in one school. Also, if you look at the boilerless category, again, this is a lot better from an energy standpoint, from a water standpoint. Realistically, your deliming chemicals and water filters are going to be close to the same. You might be able to save even a little bit more money there, depending on what your initial water quality is. But again, these are going to cost about $3,900 a year to run. Compare that to your connectionless or boiler-free at about $1,700 a year, and you could still save $2,204 if you currently have a boilerless unit and switched over to a boiler-free unit. Also, a pretty good savings, a couple $1,000, if you just went from boiler-based over to boilerless steamers. Again, the water consumption is directly correlated to the amount of savings that your district potentially could get with this type of a unit. So when you're looking at it, you got your boiler-based at $5,800 a year, $3,900 a year for boilerless, and around $1,700 a year for your connectionless or boiler-free unit. So it really does pose a good value proposition to switch from that boiler-based steamer over to boilerless or connectionless or boiler-free. Okay, what I've got next is a little video on the physics of steam. And to truly understand the art of steam cooking, we're going to kind of go back to basics here with a little short, fun video on the physics of steam.
To understand steam cooking, we must first understand the nature of steam. Steam is a vapor and is the purest form of water. It does not contain impurities and doesn't have the ability to transfer flavor. Under normal sea level conditions, steam is created when the temperature of water reaches 212 degrees Fahrenheit or 100 degrees Celsius. Once created, steam seeks to return to its normal or liquid state, which is water. To do this, it seeks out something colder than itself in order to release its heat energy. Once this energy is released, the steam turns into condensation or returns to its liquid form. Until its heat energy is released, it remains in the form of steam. Steam is 100 times more efficient than any other type of dry heating method. Look at it this way. If you set an oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit and then stick your hand into the oven, it will not immediately burn you, as long as you don't touch the sides. Obviously, if you leave your hand in long enough, it will eventually burn you. But try putting your hand above a boiling pot of water, ouch, and you'll be burned instantly. This is because steam is 100 times more efficient at rapidly transferring its heat energy than any other dry heating method. Another unique property of steam is its ability to raise and lower in temperature. Using vacuum technology, a steamer with a vacuum pump can pull a vacuum inside its chamber to actually lower the temperature of steam.
All right, so there's a little bit on the physics of steam. And what I'm going to do now is kind of show you a relative presentation here on what that actually looks like inside the steamer cavity. And what you'll find is we've got the red dots representing air and the blue dots representing steam. And what you'll see inside of this cavity, and this little box here is supposed to represent the inside of the cavity. So that would be if you opened up your door on your steamer, you put product into it and closed the door. This is kind of what the cavity looks like. You're trapping air inside of there along with the steam. Air is an insulator and actually slows down the cooking process. Remember, steam by nature is attracted to anything colder than itself. When you have air inside of that cavity, that air actually insulates the steam from, or actually insulates the product so the steam can't get to it as efficiently. That actually creates air pockets inside the steamer, and you're going to get uneven cooking that way. However, a lot of your boiler-based units, this is exactly what they are. The main difference there would be a convection-type boiler-based steamer, which normally would have a fan over the side here that actually blows stuff around, and we're going to show you that here in just one second. When you look at a convection steamer, basically a manufacturer decided, you know what, if we put a fan inside of a convection oven, it cooks faster and more evenly. I wonder if that would work in a steamer. And guess what? It did. So now when you close that cavity, you're still trapping the air and the steam inside of that cavity. However, what the fan does is actually circulates that air and that steam, and it eliminates those cold spots. So what you're getting now is not only a faster cook time because of that convected steam and air, but you're also getting more even pan-to-pan temperatures as well. A lot of you, if you've ever cooked with a standard boiler-based steamer, what you'll find is your top pans typically are going to get done first, your middle pans are going to get done normally last, and your bottom pans are going to be somewhere in the middle. So what happens is typically you get a very inconsistent product out of that boiler-based unit. The fan really helps even that up, and it really decreases the time from when those top pans and the bottom pans get done. So you get a much tighter window there and a tighter spec on that. Therefore, you actually end up with a better product when you work with a convection type of a steamer. The next type of steamer is called steam vector technology, and I'd mentioned this earlier. And what this actually does is uses the physics of steam. You can see that they actually have less air that gets trapped inside the chamber. And what happens on these types of units is they actually use the physics of steam along with something called a pressure switch to control the steam. So what happens is this. You have this cover at the bottom of the unit where the water fills up. This is the water down underneath this cover. Then they have a false sidewall over here. What happens is the water actually boils underneath of this cover, and it's kind of like a teapot. It builds up a very slight pressure, and what happens is it forces that steam up this false sidewall, and then it jets that steam out over your pans of food. So what you're doing here is actually creating a natural convection with no pumps, no fans, and no motors. As I mentioned, there is a pressure switch inside of these units as well. Because of the way they operate, remember I said they build a slight pressure here. Once that pressure hits a certain point, there's something called a pressure switch that normally is going to be over here. It's not inside the cavity. You'd never be able to see it if you looked. But what that actually does is tells this type of a unit, hey, I'm hot enough, the food is absorbing all of the steam that it can, so you can go ahead and shut the heater off. I don't need any more heat. And that's what helps this type of a unit be more energy efficient. It also helps it be more cooking efficient as well. This type of a unit, again, is going to be somewhere between 92 to 97% energy efficient or cooking efficient when you're cooking products in it. Also, the nice thing about this is it eliminates pumps, fans, and motors, so you don't have as many parts that are associated with these type of units. So your connectionless and your steam vector technology type of steamer actually has fewer parts, which is going to be less maintenance and downtime down the road. The last type is actually called a vacuum steamer. And with a vacuum steamer, what happens is they actually have a vacuum pump that pulls all of that air out of the chamber. You can see there's no red dots in here whatsoever. So by pulling all of that air out of the chamber, you're actually creating a perfect environment for steam cooking. There is no insulating air whatsoever. You're working in a pure steam environment. So with that, you get the most even pan-to-pan temperatures that you can get of any steamer on the market. Again, that's verified by that third-party testing that you'll find on the Fisher Nickel website, which again is fishnick.com, FISHNICK.com. And that's where you'll find some information on these types of steamers as well. All right. Let's talk a little bit about steam cooking and antioxidants and nutrient retention. When you're talking about microwaving, actually only 3% of your nutrients and antioxidants are retained with microwaving. When you look at your stovetop method, it's going to be about 34% of your nutrients are retained. Pressure cookers, about 53%. Pressure steamer is about 53%. However, when you look at an atmospheric steamer, 89% of your antioxidants and nutrients are actually retained. Now, these statistics actually come from the Journal of Science of Food and Agriculture, and this is from the October 2003 edition. One thing I want you to keep in mind when you're looking at steamers, don't be fooled by small cavities that maybe hold 2 pans and you have to put the Lexan type pans in them. You can't use stainless pans in them. If you cannot put a stainless steel pan into your so-called steamer, what you're actually getting is a microwave, not a steamer. Any steamer you have to add water to, so pay attention to that. We want those kids getting as much nutrients and antioxidants as they can. It's going to make them smarter in the long run, and maybe they'll actually pay attention in class with a full belly. Today's steamed entrees, rather than other cooking procedures, your steam entrees are going to result in a better texture, better flavor, less yield loss, better coloration, and also overall better nutrition. When you look at breakfast programs, as you all know, breakfast is the most important meal of the day, and steamers can be used to prepare any number of breakfast items. Of course, you can do oatmeal and grits in the steamer. You can also make scrambled eggs. You can retherm pre-cooked pancakes or sausages. You can do poached or boiled eggs, are really a snap to do. And we even have recipes that you can download from the HACCP website for breakfast casseroles and other items that can be made in the steamer as well. Also, if you look at other manufacturers' websites, you'll be able to find their recipe books there as well that have a lot of unique items that maybe you never thought of before. Scrambled eggs really are super easy to do in here, but really your oatmeal is a fantastic item for the steamer. And a lot of folks don't even think about doing the frozen pancakes, rethermalizing those in there. If you do them correctly, they actually do not come out waterlogged in your connectionless or boiler-free type of steamers. When you move on to a lunch type of a menu, definitely great for rethermalizing any kind of soups or stews that you might have, be it a boil in a bag product or a tray pack product, macaroni and cheese, all your vegetables. Taco meat is a great one. You can actually do taco meat from raw. You can cook the raw beef in the steamer, steam it up, break it up, throw your seasoning in there, and away you go. So there really are a lot of different ways you can do products in the steamer for lunch. Mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, rices and pastas, and of course any kind of vegetables are going to retain more color, more nutrients, and actually have a better texture when cooked in a steamer, whether they're fresh, frozen, or even from a can. Now, I know desserts is probably not something that you would actually cook at a school unless you have a catering program, so I really just wanted to throw this in there to make you hungry. So maybe you're hungry for that piece of cheesecake or that piece of bread pudding with the raspberry on it or a muffin. However, if you are doing catering, remember that you can cook items like this in your steamer. Also, I wanted to mention, too, meat items like turkey rolls are a great product to cook in there. Also, inside rounds, if you're doing any kind of roast beef, are fantastic to be able to cook in the steamers as well. All right, so when we're steaming green, let's look at some efficient steamer choices. Again, when you're talking about an efficient type of a steamer, you want to look at your connectionless steamer or your boiler-free steamer, but also boilerless steamers as well. But how can you assure yourself that you're making the right decision when it comes to water and energy efficiency? Well, first off, remember this. Boiler-based steamers, B-A-D, bad. There is absolutely no reason for anyone to have a boiler-based steamer anymore, really anywhere in the industry. So again, I know I've said it a couple times, I strongly urge you to stay away from that type of a unit. So when you're talking about steam and green, a few things to consider is power. Is it going to be electric? Is it going to be natural gas? Is it going to be propane? And again, I'm going to go over a research tool here for you that really will help you kind of narrow down what might be best. But when you're looking at power sources, normally it's going to be one of those three. Most of your electric units are either going to be 208 or 240 volt, single or three-phase. Your gas units typically are going to have a 120 volt plug on them along with the propane ones as well. Normally for any kind of onboard electronics, maybe an electronic ignition, something along those lines, and maybe it even powers up your timer as well. But when you're talking about energy efficiency, really it's all about the water. And the water usage is what really is critical when you're looking at energy efficiency. The less water a steamer uses, the more energy efficient it is inherently going to be. So what I've got here is a little video for you on water.
The typical connected steamer wastes enough water in an average business day to fill at least 10 bathtubs. Over the course of a year, that could add up to as much as 3,700 bathtubs, or 110,000 gallons of water. That's a lot of rubber ducks, not to mention the energy necessary to heat that amount of water. In comparison, popular vacuum and steam vector technology steamers only discard, at most, 3 to 6 gallons of water per day. The energy and water you can save with vacuum or steam vector technology could heat an average of 52 homes for an entire year, or fill 831,368 16-ounce water bottles. This doesn't even take into consideration the savings and high maintenance costs associated with a connected steamer's filtration systems, chemicals, boilers, and the repair.
So as you can see, water usage really is critical. So let's talk a little bit about research tools and where did some of those numbers that I was popping up earlier come from. First off, let me talk about a couple. The first is going to be Energy Star. The Energy Star website is energystar.gov. This is a great place to look for energy efficient equipment. They do have a commercial section of the website that does specifically hone in on cooking type equipment. Currently, I believe you're going to find pretty much steamers and griddles on there, although they are working on a category for combi ovens as well. Another nice thing about the Energy Star website is if you choose an Energy Star rated steam cooker for your kitchen, a lot of states are now offering, the utility companies, be it electric or gas, a lot of states are actually offering rebates to schools and other facilities now for switching to a more energy efficient type of a product. You can find this information on energystar.gov. It's also on the fishnick.com website as well. Fishnick.com, silly website name, fishnick.com. That is the Food Service Technology Center in San Ramon, California. And what they do is called ASTM testing on all types of different equipment. And this ASTM testing is the basis for a piece of equipment getting Energy Star. And all ASTM testing is it means that they test an AccuTemp steamer just like they test a Cleveland steamer, just like they test a Groen steamer. So they're all tested exactly the same way, so it puts everyone on a level playing field. I'm going to go ahead, when you go to their website, fishnick.com, in case you didn't notice, I kind of want you to write that down. So fishnick.com, this is what their website's going to look like when you go there. And what we're going to do is pretend that we click on equipment. When you click on equipment, you're going to come up to appliance types. You'll see they have boiler or braising pans, pasta cookers, ranges, broilers, fryers, steam kettles, griddles, ovens, ware washers. They've actually added some combi ovens and things like that now as well, although they are working on getting some more things added. We're going to go ahead and pretend we click on steamers here. When you click on steamers, what you're going to notice is it's going to have utility rebates. You can actually click there and input your information as far as zip code goes and see if there are any utility rebates available in your area. Also performance reports and a life cycle cost calculator. The life cycle cost calculator is very interesting because you can input some data from the current steamer you have, if you can find it off of a spec sheet or off the data tag on the unit, and you can find out what that life cycle cost has been or is. You can also input the new unit and see what that life cycle cost is as well. And what you may find is this can give you a number of how much potential savings you could have in a year or over the life of that steamer for your district. Again, this could give you a good way to help sell purchasing new steamers or other equipment to your board. We're going to go ahead and pretend we click on performance reports right now. When you come to steamer performance reports, you're going to see several manufacturers' model numbers listed. I believe if you looked at this today, there are upwards of 25 different steamers that are listed in this category. And what you can do is you click the blue segment here to actually download the report. Typically, these reports are going to be up to 25 to 35 pages. Some of them are going to be much shorter. However, all of them have a summary table like this, and it looks just like this. And here's the important information. When it says rated energy input rate, kilowatts per hour, that is basically relating to the heater size. So a 17 kilowatt rating would mean that it actually has a heater that is capable of producing 17 kilowatts of heat per hour. When you look at your measured energy input rate, it's actually 16.1. So in other words, when they turned this unit on and it started pulling electricity through that heating element, it was actually pulling 16.1, not the full 17 kilowatts. When you look at a preheat time, you can see from a cold start, this type of a unit preheated in 6.3 minutes, so a very quick preheat time. This is, by the way, a connectionless steamer that we're looking at here. You look at your preheat energy, 1.7 kilowatts, which is very energy efficient, and an idle energy rate at only 0.16. Now what that means is this: when that steamer is in idle, that means maybe you've turned it on in the morning, the unit is preheated, it's got up to temperature, but you're not cooking with it. And that's what your idle mode is going to be. Your boiler-based steamer, typically when it's on, it's running full bore the whole time. So you would expect, instead of seeing a 0.16 here, you would expect to see more something like that 16 to 16.1 range in the idle efficiency, because it doesn't really have an idle mode. They just keep creating steam the whole time, for the most part. Some of the newer models have changed that, where they are a little bit better on the idle mode. In other words, it cuts the heating element in half during that idle mode when you're not cooking in it, so it does make it slightly more energy efficient. The frozen peas test is what you're going to see here, and you can see a light load, a heavy load, and then a production capacity. On your light load, that's going to be cooking 3 5-pound perforated pans of peas, and you can see it's 64.1% cooking efficient. So in other words, 64.1% of the electrical you're paying for is actually going to go into cooking that food product. When you look at your heavy cooking load energy efficiency, it goes up to 95%. So basically 95% of the energy that steamer is using is actually going into cooking the product. When you look at production capacity, pounds per hour, this is something that's critical for you to look at when you're looking at how many steamers do you actually need. This one is capable, if you were cooking just a frozen pea, this type of a test relates directly to maybe a frozen California blend, frozen green beans. It could be a number of products, but you're looking at about 190 pounds per hour from a production capability standpoint. So this allows you to very easily see, if you're doing a lot of vegetables in the steamer, this would be what you'd want to look at to see how many steamers do you actually need. If you need 300 pounds capacity per hour, you can see you're probably going to want to buy 2 of these type of units. When you look at your red potatoes tests are going to be more, obviously that's what you're going to use for like your baked potatoes, if you do a lot of baked potatoes. But also if you're doing a lot of boil in a bag products, or you're doing a lot of tray pack type products, like maybe the aluminum foil pack macaroni and cheese, or something along those lines, this is the testing that you're going to want to look for. Because your potatoes are a denser product, they can only absorb heat so fast. So your red potato test is going to be more like your boil in a bag product, your tray pack product, your 4-inch deep pan of refried beans perhaps, something along those lines. So again, what you can see on the thicker products, no matter what kind of steamer it is, they're always going to be less energy efficient on a more dense product that cannot absorb that heat faster. So on your light load, what they're doing again is 3 pans of potatoes. However, now these are 8-pound pans. So 8 pounds per pan, I should say. So you can see it's 31.2% on a light load. Heavy load goes up to 73.1%. And this is going to hold true for all steamers out there. When you're cooking with a light load, a steam cooker is inherently less efficient when you're cooking a light load. When you really load it up and fill it with products, that's when you get your most energy efficiency. So I always recommend, even if you're cooking different products, the more you can load in there, the more energy and cooking efficient that steamer is going to be. But again, that's 135.3 pounds per hour. So again, if you're doing, a bunch of bags of boil-in-a-bag soups, if you're doing a lot of bags of maybe macaroni and cheese, refried beans, taco meat, again, this would be where you'd want to look for that number of what this steamer is capable of producing in an hour. So that's going to really help you make the right decision on this type of a unit. Also, you can see they have an ice load test here. I know probably not many schools or anywhere for that matter actually cook ice, but what this is doing is actually they take a 2-inch deep solid pan of ice, they put a temperature probe smack in the middle of it, and what they're doing is seeing how long does it take to actually cook these pans of ice up to a temperature of 165 degrees. You can see that was 19.2 minutes from frozen to 165 degrees. Your next thing there is going to be your maximum temperature difference, 35.3, and then maximum time delay of 6.8. What these two numbers mean is this. In that 19.2 minutes, you have, once all of those pans get up to 165 degrees, there was a temperature difference of 35 degrees between those pans. So in other words, when that last pan hit 165, there was another one in there that was close to 190 degrees. So that shows you that. And then also the time delay shows you that when that first pan got done, it took 6.8 minutes for that last pan to get up to 165 degrees. What this is going to tell you, the smaller this temperature difference and the smaller this maximum time delay is, the more cooking efficient the unit's going to be, but also the more even pan-to-pan temperature is going to be as well, meaning that the tighter that window, if this down here at 6.8 minutes goes down to 4 minutes, that means that top pan of green beans is going to be done within 4 minutes of the bottom pan of green beans. So you get a much more consistent, higher quality product that way as well. I don't have the page on here about water efficiency, but it actually does show you water efficiency on a separate table as well. And again, this is really good information for you to be able to compare different types of steamers that are available out there on the market. So, all right. Please write down the website address below and make sure you fill out all the fields. That way I can be sure to get your certificate. You can take this test a couple times. If you don't pass it, I will definitely let you know that. If you do pass it, you can look for the certificate to be emailed to you. The website address you can see down here at the bottom. What you want to do is write this down. It's www.accutemp.net/expo_test.htm. I'm going to go ahead and leave that up there again. That is www.accutemp.net/expo_test.htm. And this is where you can go to take that test and get your CEU credits for attending this session. If you have any questions, you could always email me from the AccuTemp website or obviously call us at any time as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, John, for the great informative presentation. I think if you can turn the mute off now, those in the audience could either speak up or maybe we have a chat. We don't have anything at this time in terms of an actual chat message with a question, but you can also use chat to send us a question if you'd like, either way. So if you think you need to click on the mute button to have them back on. That would be with the telephone icon. Oh, actually, that is now putting it in presentation mode and muting it. Okay, so we're back to being conversational again.
There we go.
There we go. Those of you in the audience, do you have any questions for John? Okay, going once, twice, 3 times. Any final comments, John, or are you that take care of everything?
I really appreciate everyone's time today, and hope you enjoyed the session and hopefully learned a little bit on making an energy and water efficient choice for your districts.
Well, thank you very much, John. We've recorded this presentation today, and it will be available as a video in the Child Nutrition Professional Development Center. With our first time posted would be 3 p.m. on Monday, the 24th, and then also on 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, and prior to that on Tuesday at 6 p.m. So you can catch this video at that time and refer to it to learn more about all the information that John's provided today. Otherwise, thank you all for joining us, and this is the end of recording this session. Thank you very much, John, for making such a very informative presentation to our group today. Bye-bye.
You're welcome. Thank you.